The desperate signal. The alarm cut through the quiet hum of Aurora 7 mining station like a knife. Jake Morrison dropped his coffee mug and ran to the command center, his boots echoing in the metal corridors as he moved through the station that had been his home for 3 years. "What do we have, Lisa?" Jake asked his science officer as he reached the main console. Lisa Harper looked up from her screens, her face pale under the blue glow of the displays. "Unknown vessel approaching fast. It's broadcasting on multiple frequencies, but the signal is breaking up badly." Jake slid into his command chair and pulled up the sensor data. The ship on his screen looked wrong. Burn marks covered its hull, and pieces of metal floated away from it like a trail of breadcrumbs. Whatever this thing was, it had seen better days. "Can you clean up that transmission?" Jake asked. Lisa's fingers danced across her keyboard. The static cleared slightly, and a voice came through the speakers. It spoke broken English mixed with what sounded like a dozen other human languages. "Please, seeking warmth givers. Dying from cold, children cannot. Please help." The voice was desperate, filled with pain that needed no translation. Jake felt his chest tighten. In his 15 years of space service, he had heard that tone before. It was the sound of people who had lost everything. "Jake, you need to see this." Lisa had switched to visual sensors. The ship was closer now, and Jake could make out details that made his stomach drop. The vessel was barely holding together. Hull plates hung loose, and he could see atmosphere venting from multiple breaches. "How many life signs?" Jake asked. 43, no, wait. 41. "It's dropping," Lisa's voice was tight with worry. Jake made his decision in seconds. "Billy, get down to docking bay 2 and prep for emergency landing. Tony, start setting up translation protocols. Amy, get to medical and prepare for multiple casualties." His crew moved without question, but Jake saw the looks they exchanged. Aurora 7 was a mining station, not a rescue ship. They had 43 humans aboard and supplies for maybe 50 people. Taking on aliens was against every regulation in the book. But as Jake watched the dying ship struggle toward their docking bay, he knew some things mattered more than regulations. First contact. The alien ship limped into their docking bay like a wounded animal seeking shelter. It settled on the deck with a groan of twisted metal that made everyone wince. Jake suited up and walked through the airlock, not sure what he would find. The ship's door opened with a hiss of escaping air. The first thing Jake noticed was the cold. Even through his suit, he could feel how frigid the air inside the ship had become. Then he saw them. They were reptilian, with scales that shimmered green and gold in the docking bay lights. But these scales looked dull now, gray around the edges like frost damage. The adults were tall, maybe 7 feet, with long necks and large eyes that reflected the light. The children were smaller copies of their parents, but they moved slowly, as if every step was a struggle. An elder alien stepped forward. Its scales were more gray than green, and Jake could see intelligence and deep sadness in its large eyes. When it spoke, its voice was the same one they had heard over the radio. "I am Kesahai of the Veltar. We seek the warmth givers. Our young ones die in the cold of space. Please, if you have mercy, let us stay near your heat for a short time." Jake looked past Kesahai at the other aliens. Many leaned on each other for support. The children stayed close to the adults, their eyes half closed as if they were fighting sleep. Or something worse. "How long have you been in space?" Jake asked through his suit's external speakers. "Many cycles of your sun. Our world died when our star collapsed. We have searched for a place that will take us, but everywhere we go, the councils say no. We are too many, too different, too much trouble." Kesahai's voice carried the weight of endless rejection. Jake felt anger rise in his chest, not at these people, but at a galaxy that could turn away children who were dying from cold. "Lisa," Jake spoke into his comm unit. "What's the temperature reading inside their ship?" 15 degrees below zero and dropping, Jake. At that rate, I don't think they'll last another day. Jake looked at the alien children again. One of them, barely knee-high to its parents, swayed on its feet. Its eyes were closing, and Jake realized it was losing consciousness from the cold. He made his choice. Kesahai, I'm Jake Morrison, commander of this station. You and your people are welcome here. We'll find you warm places to stay and food to eat. No councils, no paperwork, no waiting. The change in the aliens was immediate. Kesahai's scales seemed to brighten slightly, and several of the other adults made soft sounds that might have been relief or gratitude. The children perked up as if Jake's words had given them new strength. You would do this for strangers? Kesahai asked. Your laws allow this? Jake smiled, though the alien couldn't see it through his helmet. My laws are simple. No one dies from cold on my station. Not today, not ever. As Jake led the Veltar through Aurora 7's corridors toward the unused sections of the station, he knew he had just made a decision that would change everything. The Galactic Council would not be happy. His superiors would be furious. But looking at the alien children who were already walking straighter in the warm air of his station, Jake knew he had made the right choice. Some rules were meant to be broken. The price of compassion. The call came 3 days after the Veltar arrived. Jake was watching Billy Chen show a group of alien children how to operate the station's heating controls when his communication unit buzzed with an urgent message from Earth. Admiral Kevin Stone's face filled the screen in Jake's office, his expression cold as space itself. Behind him, Jake could see the Colonial Command logo and knew this conversation would not go well. Commander Morrison, I have reports that you've taken unauthorized aliens aboard Aurora 7. Is this true? Jake straightened in his chair. Yes, sir. 41 Veltar refugees requested emergency shelter. They were dying from cold exposure. And you thought it was your place to make first contact decisions? Stone's voice was sharp. These decisions go through proper channels, Morrison. The Galactic Council has procedures for refugee situations. With respect, sir, these people were dying. The children wouldn't have lasted another day in space. I couldn't wait for committees to debate while people died. Stone leaned forward. You've created a diplomatic incident. The Zenthari Council is demanding explanations. The Kredak military wants to know why humans are harboring unknown aliens. And now I have to clean up your mess. Jake felt heat rise in his chest. My mess. I saved lives. You broke protocol. I'm ordering you to transfer the aliens to Outpost Delta 7 for proper processing. A transport ship will arrive in 72 hours. Jake knew what processing meant. He had seen the refugee camps at Delta 7 through official reports. Overcrowded, underfunded, and located in the coldest sector of human space. The Veltar would freeze to death there just as surely as they would have in space. Sir, I respectfully decline that order. Stone's face darkened. You decline. This is not a request, Commander. This is a direct order from Colonial Command. Then I'm formally requesting a review of that order through proper channels, Jake said, using the Admiral's own words against him. The screen went dark as Stone cut the connection. Jake sat in his chair for a long moment, knowing he had just ended his military career. But when he heard the sound of children laughing in the corridor outside, he felt no regret. Dr. Amy Rodriguez found Jake an hour later in the medical bay, where she was running tests on their new residents. They're fascinating from a medical standpoint, she explained, but also heartbreaking. Their body temperature has been dropping for months. Amy showed Jake her readings. Look at this. Their scales are designed to absorb and hold heat, but when they get too cold, their whole system starts shutting down. It's like hypothermia, but worse. She pulled up images on her screen. The young ones are the most vulnerable. Their temperature regulation isn't fully developed. Jake, if you hadn't brought them in when you did, we would have lost at least 6 of the children by now. Jake studied the medical data. What do they need to recover? Heat, obviously, but also specific minerals that help their scales function properly. The good news is we have everything they need. Our geothermal systems produce the exact temperature range they require, and the mining operation has been pulling up the minerals they need for months. And the bad news? Amy's face grew serious. Colonial Command wants them gone. I intercepted communications between the station and Earth. They're sending a military transport to take the Veltar to Delta 7. Jake had not told his crew about Stone's ultimatum, but word was spreading anyway. In a station of 43 people, secrets. Hidden value. That evening, Jake found himself in the station's common area, which had become an informal meeting place for humans and Veltar alike. Tony Martinez sat with Kesahai, working on translation programs. The alien elder was surprisingly quick at learning human languages, and their conversations had become detailed and complex. Kesahai has been telling me about their homeworld, Tony said when Jake joined them. Jake, you need to hear this. The Veltar elder turned to Jake, his large eyes reflecting the warm light of the common area. Commander Morrison, my people have traveled the stars for many generations. We studied the movements of suns and planets. We learned to read the signs when a star becomes unstable. You're astronomers? Jake asked. More than that. We could predict when stars would collapse and warn other worlds. For 1,000 years, we saved entire civilizations by giving them time to evacuate. Kesahai's voice carried pride mixed with sadness. But we could not save ourselves. Jake leaned forward, suddenly understanding the magnitude of what they had lost. Your knowledge, it could save billions of lives. It could have, Kesahai corrected gently. But who will listen to homeless refugees? The councils see only our need for warmth and shelter. They do not see what we can offer in return. Tony pulled up a star chart on his tablet. Show him, Kesahai. The elder alien studied the display for a moment, then pointed to a section with his long finger. This star here, in what you call the meridian sector. It will collapse within 50 of your years. The instability patterns are already visible to those who know how to look. Jake's breath caught. The meridian sector housed 3 major colonies with over 2 million inhabitants combined. And this one, Kesahai continued, pointing to another star, perhaps 30 years. The early signs are subtle, but they are there. The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. The Veltar weren't just refugees, they were living libraries of stellar knowledge that could prevent catastrophic loss of life across the galaxy. The next morning brought unwelcome visitors. Jake watched through the viewport as the military transport ship approached Aurora 7. It was massive, bristling with weapons, and carried the insignia of Colonial Command's Enforcement Division. They're not taking any chances, Lisa observed grimly. Colonel Marcus Webb led the boarding party, a man Jake had crossed paths with before. Webb was efficient, humorless, and followed orders without question, everything Jake used to think he was himself. Commander Morrison, Webb said as he entered the command center with 6 armed Marines behind him. By order of Colonial Command, you will surrender the alien refugees for immediate transport to Processing Station Delta 7. Jake stood his ground. Colonel, I've formally requested a review of that order. Until the review is complete, the Veltar remain under my protection. Webb's expression didn't change. Your review was denied 30 minutes ago. These aliens pose a potential security risk and must be processed according to standard protocols. What security risk? Jake demanded. They're refugees. Half of them are children. Unknown alien species with undetermined capabilities, Webb recited as if reading from a manual. Protocol 77 Alpha requires immediate containment and evaluation. Jake felt his crew gathering behind him. Amy, Lisa, Tony, Billy, all of them ready to stand with him against overwhelming odds. But Jake also saw the weapons the Marines carried and knew this wouldn't end well for anyone. Colonel, Jake said carefully, before you take them, there's something you need to know. The Veltar possess knowledge of stellar mechanics that could save millions of lives. Webb's expression flickered slightly. Explain. They can predict stellar collapse decades in advance. They've identified at least 2 stars in populated systems that will go supernova within 50 years. For the first time, Webb looked uncertain. That's a significant claim, Commander. It's verifiable, Jake pressed. Give me 24 hours to document their knowledge before you take them. If I'm wrong, you can court-martial me for insubordination. If I'm right, Colonial Command will have access to information worth more than any political controversy. Webb was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing his options. Finally, he spoke into his comm unit. Admiral Stone, this is Webb. I need to speak with you immediately about the Aurora 7 situation. A new beginning. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of activity. Jake worked alongside Kesahai and the other Veltar elders, documenting their vast knowledge of stellar mechanics. Amy continued her medical assessments, proving the aliens' unique biological needs and their remarkable recovery in Aurora 7's warm environment. Tony recorded hundreds of hours of testimony about their civilization's achievements and losses. The breakthrough came when Kesahai provided detailed calculations about the Meridian Sector star. Lisa ran the data through the station's computers, cross-referencing it with human astronomical databases. Jake, Lisa called out, her voice filled with excitement and fear. The Veltar calculations match our long-term stellar models. The patterns they're describing, we've seen hints of them in our own data but dismissed them as instrument errors. Admiral Stone's face appeared on the main screen, flanked by officials Jake didn't recognize. His expression was unreadable as he reviewed the transmitted data. Commander Morrison, Stone said finally, you've presented us with a rather extraordinary situation. The Veltar knowledge is legitimate, sir, Jake replied. They can help us save entire star systems. So it appears. However, this doesn't excuse your violation of protocols. Jake straightened. I understand, sir. I'm prepared to accept the consequences of my actions. Stone was quiet for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled, the first genuine expression Jake had ever seen from the Admiral. Commander, sometimes the best officers are the ones who know when to break the rules. The Galactic Council has agreed to grant the Veltar emergency refugee status pending a full evaluation of their scientific knowledge. Aurora 7 is being designated as a temporary research station under your continued command. Jake felt his knees nearly buckle with relief. Behind him, he heard Amy whisper, "Thank God," and the sound of his crew exchanging quiet congratulations. There's more, Stone continued. The Veltar elders have agreed to work with our Stellar Cartography Division to identify other at-risk systems. In exchange, we're establishing a permanent sanctuary for their people, with the environmental controls they need to thrive. Colonel Webb, who had been standing silently throughout the conversation, stepped forward. Sir, what are your orders regarding the enforcement team? Stand down, Colonel. Your mission parameters have changed. You'll be escorting a diplomatic team back to Aurora 7 instead of refugees to Delta 7. After the communication ended, Jake found himself alone with Kesahai in the common area. The Veltar elders' scales had regained much of their green luster, and he moved with the grace Jake imagined he'd once possessed on his homeworld. Thank you, Commander Morrison, Kesahai said. You gave us more than warmth. You gave us hope. Jake shook his head. You saved yourselves. Your knowledge, your value, that's what changed everything. No, Kesahai said gently. Knowledge without compassion is meaningless. You showed mercy to strangers when you had every reason to turn us away. That is why we will remember this place, and why we will share everything we know to help others. 3 months later, Jake stood in the observation lounge watching the construction of New Haven Station. The massive structure was being built specifically for the Veltar, with environmental systems designed to maintain the precise temperature and humidity they needed. But it wasn't just a refuge, it was becoming the galaxy's most advanced stellar research facility. The Veltar had already identified 12 at-risk star systems, leading to the evacuation of 3 colonies and saving over 800,000 lives. Their knowledge was reshaping humanity's understanding of stellar evolution and cosmic phenomena. Jake, Amy said, joining him at the viewport. The first group of human scientists arrives next week to work with the Veltar researchers. Can you believe it? 6 months ago, they were dying in a broken ship, and now they're leading the most important scientific project in the galaxy. Jake watched as young Veltar and human children played together in the station's recreational areas, their laughter echoing through the corridors. The galaxy had changed, not through military might or political maneuvering, but through a simple act of compassion toward strangers in need. Sometimes, Jake said, the most important decisions we make are the ones that break all the rules. As the twin suns of the Aurora system set beyond the viewport, casting golden light across the growing station, Jake Morrison smiled. He had learned that in the vast, cold expanse of space, warmth came not just from stars or heaters, but from the choices people made when confronted with the suffering of others. The Veltar had sought warmth givers and found something far more valuable, they had found humanity at its best. The end.